How's it going, ScrubGamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we have another deck profile of a deck you might want to take to Fest, maybe, and that is OG Broly. So, with the last ban, with the Bandits updates, I think it hasn't been in effect yet until the new set comes out, which is the pre-releases this weekend, and we got I think next week or in a week or two, we got the official release of the set finally. And with that comes the update where Cell Surge Leader got banned, and Cell Surge was basically the best hand destruction deck in the game. And with the leader being banned, it means now that has now left a void, and other hand control decks can be tried and tested to try and fill that void to have some kind of hand destruction deck. Because there are a few, not many, in green. But Cell Surge was the best one because it was uninteractable. Like, it didn't really have to interact with your opponent to take away their cards, and it did it with such ease because it could just easily set up and stuff. It's like and it was more hand destruction than hand control, because hand control is where you maintain your opponent's hand, keep it low, and hand destruction is where you just rip it apart. And hand destruction is basically it's not great for the game. It's a bad thing for the game. But hand control is not too bad strategy because it's keeping the hand low, but so your opponent loses their hand, keeps it low, but they still have cards to play. Where hand destruction, you just rip your opponent's hand apart until they have nothing, and then to deny them resources, it can't really do anything for the game. And OG Broly is essentially a nice hand control deck. It's interactive because you have to swing. It's got some restrictions on the leader and stuff like that. And I feel it could be one of the better hand control decks in the format now that Cell's gone, and it could be a good take for going to Festival, because a lot of people are jumping on some decks like a Soul Striker, and Soul Strikers like in blue, which doesn't have the greatest time against hand control. So I feel like if you expect a lot of blue, you might want to take something like this to help have a better matchup against blue. And with pre-siding, if you're into pre-siding, you can have a side deck open as well. Now, I don't have a side deck for this deck because I haven't really tested this out yet. It's just got the initial list, and it's not one I'm 100% taking to Fest. I might take it, I'm not sure. I know at least, I think it's 2 decks I'm 100% taking the 3 Fest events I'm taking, but this might not be one of them. But still, I wanted to put out a video just so if anybody wanted to try it out, they had a rough base for a list. So going on to the list, it is an OG Broly. So on its front side, or on both sides, it has a permanent where it can't attack battle cards. So it means you can only attack your opponent's leader or Unison if they have one. And on its front side, it's just got an auto when it attacks. Both players choose one card in your hand and discard it. So that's it. You don't gain any advantage on the front side, so you want to try and awaken as quickly as possible, which there are ways to do that in here. And its awaken is the old defensive one, which is when you let it 4 or less, draw 2 and flip over. And when you are awakened, you now, as I said, start the permanent, but now you have an auto where when this card attacks, which can only be a leader or Unison, both players choose one card in their hand and one card on in their battle area and place them in the drop area. So essentially you discard and control their board a little bit. So it kind of mediates the fact you can't attack with battle cards by forcing your opponent to choose a battle card, or a card in their battle area, so you can hit fills if they don't have barrier, if that's all they've got on there, and put in the drop. But the only thing is, it doesn't get around barrier, so if your opponent's got something with barrier, then they can't choose that because it's your effect trying to choose it, and barrier prevents that. So this is nice in the fact that is also a nice tool for if you ever get fill card based decks whose fill cards don't have barrier, because if they've got nothing on the board apart from fill card, they've got to send that when you're awakened. So that's a niche thing this deck has as well. And it's just nice hand control where you're just, it's both players have to choose one, but you're going to have cards in your deck that prevent you from discarding from your own effects. So going into the list, we have the first one, new demonic restraint. We have this at 3 because you need to see it, you want to see it. It's to help you awaken, and also it's to stop you from minusing off your own effects. Because essentially its permanent is that it's treated as Broly's Ring, which is the old original field card that came with the lead, and you can't discard from your leader's effect if it's a green Broly. And it has an auto as well, where if it's sent to the graveyard, if it's either discarded or sent from your battle area to the drop area by one of your leader or battle card skills, you can play it back from your drop and then take up to one card from your life to your hand if you want to. So this is how you awaken by sacking off the demonic restraint. Well, there's another way to at least get a few cards from life, but this is one of the helpful ways by sacking this off, and then either by discarding for leader or by another effect, sacking it to the drop, then bringing it back, taking your life, so you can get yourself down to 4. And that's basically it, because we're not going to go over the activate main, because we don't play the stuff to make that relevant. But it's mainly you want to get this out as early as possible, so you don't minus from your own leader effect, and use it as a way to help you get down to 4 if your opponent's not attacking you. And then we have a way to cheat this out, so we're essentially playing 7 copies with SS3 Broly Berserker. So this acts as a pseudo, this makes the demonic restraint a pseudo 7 of, because it's a way to search it, and that is by its second auto. We're not going to rest because we're not going to activate the activate main, and the other auto we're not going to use the play it. You're not going to want to play it from that. And the permanent isn't relevant because we're not playing it either. But basically what it also says is when it's placed in your drop area from your hand by a skill, and your leader card is a Broly card, you choose it to 1 Broly's ring from your deck, activate it, then shuffle your deck if you look for it. And if you did do that, you can choose 1 or 2 cards in your life added to your hand. So this is fantastic. You normally want to mulligan to see if you can find this more than demonic restraint. Like sometimes if you just see demonic restraint in your hand next to this, you can gamble to try and see if you can find say Berserker, as it feels a bit more for your deck, but you can take that chance if you want to. Essentially you want to try and mulligan to make sure you see this, because then you can swing with your leader. Leader effect will make both you and your opponent discard. You discard this, and then this triggers playing the Broly's demonic restraint straight from your deck to the board, and allowing you to take 2 cards from your life to help you awaken quicker. And it gets you the demonic restraint set up quick, right there then. Because you're going to use it just that once, and the rest of them you're going to charge or discard for effects. And then another way to self-awaken as part of this little package. No. First we have the Unison of choice. Sorry. So we have SS Bardock Parental Unison. So this is one that came back in the first set with Unisons being set 10. And it's a specified cost of 2. So normally you're going to drop this down on turn 2. And it's got an auto and 2 marker skills. First, the auto is very relevant for a hand control deck as well. It's when your opponent combos, you may place up to 1 card from the combo area to the drop area. And if you do, you get your skill for the turn. So that's great, because in a hand control deck where you're trying to keep your opponent's cards low, this makes them think about if they want to actually take the damage or if they want to try and combo out of things, because they're going to have a limited amount of cards in hand. They're not going to have too many, and with the fact that you can use this to just draw up a combo from the hand, if they want to combo out of a 15k, like if they got 15k leader, you swing your lead, they'd be losing 1 for your lead. And if they want to out combo it and not take damage if you're getting low on life, if they combo, you can just rip a card from hand and then losing more cards in the hand. So it makes it applies a bit more pressure for it. And it's also got a handy +1 that could help as well, reduce your opponent's hand a little bit more, because it's an activate main where you choose one of your green battle cards with entry cost of 1 and KO it. And if you do, your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and discards it. So this allows you to make get rid of some of your 1-drops after they've fulfilled their condition of what they want to do, and just take your opponent's hand down a bit. And it does have a way to help finish games as well, but it's -3, which is an activate main as well. And it basically makes your leader, makes the Unison 20k and gives it triple attack for the turn. So it allows you to have a 20k triple attack on the turn and help push through more damage when they're low. And given that it's got the auto, it's gonna be great. And also the auto is live in both yours and your opponent's turn. So if they're comboing and they aggress you, you can rip a combo off their combo area. And then if they're trying to defend, you can make it so you can push more damage easier. And we play 4 copies of that because we want to try and see at least 1 by turn 2. And because it helps up with some of our extra cards as well, which we'll see. Then we have some of the 1-drops. We have 4 Paragraphs of Sacrifice and 4 Vegeta Protecting His Loved Ones. So normally you want to play, I would say at least like 8 1-drops just to help with the Bardock and at least 4 Paragus, because Paragus has a great effect which helps you make use of Demonic Restraints also, and help you gain advantage while also self-awaken you get down to 4. Because it's an activate main, once per turn, you choose 1 green card in your battle area, and remember if fill cards are in your battle area, there's not a battle card, and you place it in the drop area, and if you do, and basically from that, as the cost, you draw 1. So essentially you play this, turn 1, try and get your Demonic Restraint out by discarding it for your leader, using the same Berserker to get out. And then you use Paragus Sacrifice to send Demonic Restraint from the battle area to the drop to draw 1. Then Demonic Restraint will trigger, play itself back, and allow you to take a card from your life if you want to. So if you get this by turn 1, the Paragus Sacrifice, and use the same Berserker to play out the Demonic Restraint, by turn 2 you're awakening and you're in a very promising position. And given that the leader draws 2 on awaken, you can gain quite a lot of cards in hand as well. And then Vegeta protecting his loved ones is a personal choice for me in this, because I hate blue. I hate how blue plays, it's just stally. And so I went for Vegeta protecting his loved ones to help hinder when they have D magic and stuff. Because it's a barrier 1-drop, it's cantrip as well, when it's played draw 1, and it's got the auto of once per turn when your opponent switches their energy to active mode using a counter skill, you place up to one of their life and 1 of their energy to the drop area. And really this only hits, unless they're playing Blue Baby, this only really hits Dimension Magic, and it's just more that it's got barrier to keep itself there if need be, and also the fact that it hinders D Magic, which is probably one of the best negates in blue at the moment, and just give blue hate. You can switch it out for other cantrips, like one I was playing if I wasn't didn't hate on blue as much and wasn't expecting blue to be popular. I would go for the Frieza, the 1-drop from the King Cold set, which I think is set 13, which is a cantrip as well, but also has another effect, another auto, which requires you to pay 2 green, where you can sack off a fill card to wipe your opponent's board, not ignoring barrier. That's a nice one, just to play, turn 3, pay 1 cantrip, pay extra 2 to wipe your opponent's board, not ignoring barrier, and then make itself a 20 key double strike until the end of your opponent's turn, I think, or the end of your turn. So that's a nice one. And I can't remember if there are other ones, but those are the main 2 that I could think of that would be helpful for a deck. But I've gone for this one just because of the fact of barrier and the blue hate. And these are both types for Bonok that uses +1 to then rip a card from their hand. And on the next one we have our Floodgate negate, being Imagine Boot on the Dot with Malice. So it's a counter attack, it's 2 energy as well. And you basically, if your leader is green, I think it's if your leader is green, if your leader card is green, you negate the attack, then play this card, and if you do play the card, you can discard 1. And if you do discard 1, well, you discard 1 and then your opponent can't attack for the rest of the turn unless they discard 2 cards each time. So that's what I mean by Floodgate negate, in the fact that you negate the attack, then discard 1 if it gets played, and then put a condition on your opponent which they have to lose more hand to keep attacking, and given that you're going to be controlling the hand to keep it low, they're going to after you drop this, they're going to have many attacks that's normally going to end their turn. I'm only play 2, we could play 3, but I'm only playing 2 for now, as does cost 2 energy, and you've got other ways to help survive turns a lot easier as well. And then we have our super combo choice, being the best super combo in green, being Defending Power Paragus. And it's the better one in the fact that you do have the Gohan, but the Gohan requires to have 2 cards in hand, where you combo, get 10k, then you choose another card in your hand, put the bottom of your deck, then draw 2. It requires you to have 2 cards in your hand, so if it's the only card in your hand, it's useless, apart from getting that 10k. It doesn't get you any draws or anything like that. Whereas Paragus, it allows you to draw the 2 cards first, so when you combo it, you can and you last at 4 or less, you draw 2 cards, then choose a card in your hand and send it to a warp. So that's a nice thing in being able to see the 2 cards first. Means that if you draw 2 cards, one of them is a dead card that's not that you can't combo with or is not useful, you can choose to warp that. Whereas if you get the warp first and stuff, it means like you could draw into dead cards after sacrificing or warping something that could have been useful. Then next we have for Ribrianne, so it's green deck and control deck as well. So we're going to have for Ribrianne. She's basically just the opposite of the Goku Ape, where you pay 2 green. If your leader card is green, it's in your drop area. Send it from your warp from your drop and make your opponent discard 2. So you can just sacrifice combo. It's easy just to combo this off to defend, and then have it just to, because you don't use much energy depending on what you want, what the state of the turn is, to just help them rip your opponent's card down. Because you want, as I said, it's a hand control deck. You want to keep their hands low, to limit their options, and just make it so you can apply pressure in swings to, because they won't have much to respond with. So you always play 4 copies of that. And then we have more hand control as well with Rosie, Blast Manipulator. This is a good one. This is essentially like 2 more copies, because we only play 2 in this deck, of Rubriam, but it costs 1 more. So when it's also is, if you as green or a heroine card, which is green at least, when you play this card from your hand, your opponent chooses 2 cards of hand and discards them, and then this card gains triple attack for the turn. Now the benefit of this with a Rubriam sometimes is that this is nice for help maintain control unisons, because the fact it gives itself triple attack and it's 15k. So if your opponent's got 15k unison, you can play this, make them lose 2 cards in hand, and then get 3 attacks into a unison, which is helpful to help, because unisons can keep a lot of markers on. And the fact it has deflect means your opponent can't stop it from coming out, so it's just like Rubrian, it's unstoppable hand destruction, which is nice. And it is one of our helpful unison, because as soon as you put a unison down, you'll be attacking with your leader anyway, and just trying to get rid of it. And it's just helpful to get, if the opponent gets a lot of markers like the blue baby unison, then you can use this to help mitigate the hand and get rid of the unison. Next we have 1 copy of the Son Goku Spirit Bomb Unleashed. So this is a handy one if you want to help finish off games, because it's got an activate main limit 1, where if you have 3 or more energy, and you choose one using card in play, and what does it say? And I have a green unison card in play, sorry, not choose a unison play. You can play this card from your hand, and if you do, you choose it to one of your opponent's unison cards and remove a marker from it. So some unison hate, so some unison control. In fact, you can rip a mark off your opponent's unison. And then it's got the ever activate main once per turn. Spirit Rules X meaning you choose the number of markers you take off your unison. And it needs to be on a green unison card. This card gains 5,000 power for the turn for each marker you remove from your unison card with this skill, and if you removed at least 2 or more markers, it gains double strike as well for the turn. So you can, after swing with your unison, like say if you get the Bardock up to 5 markers, use its -3 attack a load of times to push them down to 2, you can then drop this, at least remove at least 2 markers from your unison using that effect, and then become a 25k double strike. And you've also taken a mark off your opponent's unison too. This is a nice way to try and help finish for a very low cost as well. Then we have our 4 charismatic. We're going to be having the unison focus in green, and Frieza is one of the best counter plays in the game, and like so great in green. This counter play is just play this card, and it's got a permanent where if you have a unison with at least 2 or more markers, you can play it without paying its cost. And it's also is when it's played, choose one of your opponent's battle cards at 7 or less, and then KO it. It's fantastic. And to make use of this, we have, of this being on board, because it just comes down as a 10k, we have Fuse Zamasu Daisy's Wrath. This allows you to make use of any freezes you drop that are just left there after turn 3, because it's an activate main where by paying for 1, and you have 3 or more energy, you can use a green battle cards in your battle area with 5k power or more, and a total energy cost adding up to 5, as that total of 5, and place them in a drop area, and then play this card from your hand. And this card's hard to remove because it's indestructible, meaning that it can't be removed from your battle area by skills and or battle. And it's got a nice also to help with the hand control by when this card attacks, your opponent chooses 1 card in hand and puts in a drop area. So this is a great way to make use of those freezes that you play, like you play to take out something and then just left there as a 10k, because it can't really do damage once your opponent's awakened. But by sacrificing it for the Zamasu, you then have something that can pressure leader when they're awakened, and also adds to hand control. And you play 2 because you're not always going to land. A Freezer is not always going to stay there. Then we have another 5 drop in Golden Frieza Pinnacle of the Clan. Now this is your barrier removal, and as I keep saying in every one of my videos, is that barrier removal is key nowadays, because there's things that have barrier that are like really hard, like annoying for you. For your plays or restricting, and you need a barrier removal to be able to get rid of them, and almost every colour has it. I think blue is limited on the amount of barrier removal it has, but almost every other colour has almost every colour has barrier removal. It just depends how cheap and cost effective it is. And this one can be quite cheap. It does show as a card that's a 5 drop, but not every card in the game anymore is played by paying its actual printed cost. So this one has Deflect and Double Strike, and it has a permanent make it cheaper. By you reduce the cost of this card in your hand by 1 for every 2 green extra cards in your battle area and or drop. So by having just a demonic straight in your battle area, that's 1, and then if you have 3 more in your drop area, that can put it down to 3. And that's handy because it's also got activate main once per turn. You can choose 1 green battle extra card with entry cost of 2 or less, and the fill card skill in your battle area and place it in the drop area. And if you do that, that's the cost. So basically sacking off demonic straight from your battle area to the drop, and then you get to choose one of your opponent's cards in their hand, and up to 1 battle card, ignore a barrier on their board, and place it in their owner's drop area, and then switch this card to active mode. So essentially, you get to not only get rid of something through barrier on the opponent's board, but you also get to rip a card from your hand, and you get to choose. So you get to choose a card from your hand, which is great, meaning they don't have the choice of discarding. You can rip something out that they didn't want to lose. And also you send a card from battle area. And the great thing about send is that if something needs to be can't be KO'd or get skills when it's KO'd, this gets around that because it's just sending the card, not KOing it, and it gets through barrier as well. And not only that, but it gets it to active mode, so you can swing with it first, then trigger this to get rid of the card, and have another swing with it. And being 25k double strike is quite a good pressure. And then we have our secret rare choice, being the Majin Buu Kibito Kai Absorb. Now this is a great one because it's I think green's got at least 3 decent ones. It's got the Great Ape one, it's got the Ever Buu one, and this Buu one. And for this one, I feel like this Buu is a lot easier because it only needs 2 energy to come down, and it's great as a Floodgate as well, because if activate main / battle is for 2 green, you play this card from your hand, and your opponent can't attack with battle cards for the rest of the turn, which is great. It's like a Pan Zeno for this deck, like a mini baby, which are both like mini baby hatches. And it also has a way to steal your opponent's Unison as well, which is great, where his auto is Spirit Bomb 2, which means you have to take 2 markers off your own Unison. When this card is played from your hand, choose one of your opponent's Unison cards and take control of it. So your opponent's got like a very good Unison, like the Majin Buu, the Blue Buu Unison, or a Piccolo Junior Unison or something like that. Something like a good Unison they have that you don't want them to have, and you don't want to spend time getting rid of it. If you've used the Bardock's auto or his +1 already, you can then just play this for 2, stop them from attacking with battle cards that turn, and then use the effect, the -2, the sacrifice your Unison, the take their Unison, which is fantastic. And it's just at any point, because it's just activate main / battle, so you can either do it mid battle or in the main phase. Is a 40k double striker, so that's a good way to also finish off games if need be. And now that is it for all the green battle cards, Unison cards and stuff. Now we have the last battle card being our overwhelm of choice, being Dark Temptation Tower. Now there are different Unisons you can play, but as we're a hand control deck, this is a nice one to add to help with that hand control, as it's just an overwhelm free, so meaning you just need 3 cards in your drop. And when it's played, by using overwhelm, you give your leader a 5k boost, so you can give your leader extra 5k for the turn for a swing, and also your opponent chooses 1 card in hand and discards it. So it's a bit of free hand destruction to help keep their hand low, and also giving you a 15k body and your leader a 5k boost as well, just in case they beat up or anything like that. And you can play 2 because you're not going to be overwhelmed all the time. Like sometimes you don't want to keep the Ribri on there because you might not have the energy to use it that turn, and we want to see is keep the cards low to a certain amount of green cards, so we're not whiffing on charging. And that's it for the battle cards. So now for the extra cards, we have the 4 Dormant Potential Unleash. So this is an easy one for some, not all green decks play this anymore because it is quite a neg, because it doesn't get it, you use it for free if you got Unison in play, and to get the limiting of attacks, you need to discard a card. So basically what it does is if your lead card is mono green, you choose any number of your opponent's battle cards up to an energy cost of up to a total cost of 2 and KO them, and then additionally you can discard a green card from your hand, and if you did discard a card, your opponent can only attack 1 more time for the turn. but it doesn't stop the attack it's used on, so that attack can still go through, and it only limits them to having 2 attacks still, and it costs you 2 cards to stop that. And yeah, as I said, the permanent allows it to be played for free, but if you have a green Unison in play, you can activate the counterplay without paying its energy cost. So it's a bit neg nowadays, but with this deck where the leader draws 2 for Awakening, and you've got like cantrips to draw and Paragus to draw to keep drawing a few more and taking their hand down low, it's normally going to be helpful against certain decks and be able to hit up to energy cost of 2. You can hit some of their cantrips or 2 costs and things like that. But it's nice and helpful to help you survive turns a little bit easier. And dealt with that as well, we also have 3 Homicidal Clones. This is never a negate that's going to be played free, like the two extra cards. Like none of the extra cards are going to be played by their cost, they're all going to be paid for free. And Homicidal Clones is a very good negate in the fact that it's one of the set of negates from Evolution Battle that kind of power crept the old Sparking negates from set 5, because they got permanents where if your life's at 5 or less, you can play it without paying its energy cost, but taking a life instead to use the counter skill. And not only that, they're able to essentially just go ahead and negate 2 attacks, because they negate the first attack, they negate the attack that is being used on, and then they play a token that has blocker, so they can negate that attack, play a token that's got blocker, and the next attack that comes through, they can then block with that token.